you.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the first episode of Season 1 of the Campaign Roundtable. I'm Garrett Weinzierl.
I'm Mike Doherty.
And I'm Kyle Ferguson.
And this is the cast where we dive into the depths that is the story of video games. And we are kicking off Season 1 with a two-parter. We'll be covering, as you just saw, Portal 2. Or as you're just now hearing, Portal 2. So, if you're the podcast audience, which is much larger than the live crowd.
Yep, so if you're just joining us, we are playing up to Potato. If that has no meaning to you, then, well, you should probably play Portal 1. But it's not exactly the most essential thing. They do a decent job here, and we're going first with Portal 2.
Yes, and that's I immediately just want to dive into our thoughts about the beginning of the game, but we should probably kick it off with a little information on the said game. Portal 2 was released on April 19th, 2011, and I'm curious, guys, did you guys get it at launch? Because I waited a long time to pick this game up.
It is my great shame that I waited until I heard we would be doing it on the show to pick it up. It's just one of those things where it's like puzzle game. And after playing it, I can't say that I've ever been more wrong about a game. I think I forgot how much I loved the first one.
Now, did you play... I was about to say, did you play the first one before playing the second one?
Yeah, I played that. I got it in the big orange box way back in... God, how far away was that? That was like, what, 2006, 7?
It was a while back, and it still, in my opinion, is like the greatest collection of video games ever assembled.
Yeah, maybe that and like Super Mario All-Stars.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So for consoles, it was Super Mario, and for PC, it was Orange Box.
Well, the game isn't incredibly long, and the first one was real short too, and it came as this part of the collection, the orange box, where you got Team Fortress, Half-Life Episode 2, was it? Or, Half-Life 2, Episode 2. And then...
Was it 1 and 2? Like the both of the continuing episodes?
I guess you did get a free copy of it, didn't you? But, I mean, I already played 1.
That's a good question. I don't know. Did we get 2? That's a good question. If only we had these internet-connected devices.
Yeah. That just takes the fun out of it.
That's a good point. Anyway, it was developed by Valve. If you're not aware of who Valve is, they're the makers of the incredibly famous Half-Life game and also Left 4 Dead and now Dota 2. Not the original Dota. That was a couple of nerds in their basements making a Warcraft 3 mod.
But they also, much like Blizzard, kind of sit in this weird space where they have a brainchild, Steam, that can keep them constantly funded, and they can take as long as they care to on any video game they make.
Yes, exactly, which is why I'm going to spend this entire episode trying not to derail the episode into a hate message about how long it's been since episode 2.
I think I was more upset about that until I played Portal 2, because honestly... maybe speaking some heresy, but I kind of enjoy Portal a little more than Half-Life 2. That is, maybe the third one they'll use a lot of the tricks they learned from the Portal stuff, but
it's hard to make that call because there was so much time in between the original Half-Life 2, which set up all the mechanics for Episode 1 and 2 as well, and then Portal 2, which or just Portal in general, which is just a mind melter of a mechanical game.
True.
So also they're so different in context. I mean, they definitely have a similar flavor. There's definitely this. They both have this weird air of like putting science on a pedestal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would not stoop to say that one is better than the other on any kind of official scale. I'm just saying that I think I probably laughed out loud more and probably got a little more enjoyment out of Portal and Portal 2 than
all right, so
2.
Here's a better possible analogy. Would you say it's like the Alien and Aliens effect, whereas I believe Alien is the better movie, I watch Aliens a hell of a lot more because it's more fun?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, all right, then I will let it stand and I will not jump through the internet and strangle you. By the way, I got some feedback from people on our final episode of the Heart of the Swarm talk on the subject of you being a bastard for bastard's sake.
Well, if that's what I have to be in the trio, I guess I'll be the bastard.
All right. I just wanted to let the listeners know that I am listening. We didn't get any formal complaints. It was all just like in talks with friends during some StarCraft 2v2s or something. They're like, man, that Mike is a butthole, man. He was just being difficult for the sake of being difficult. I'm like, if I recall, I called him out on his shit on the show. They're like, you did? I'm just venting. So it's fun. It was good.
It's going to be Kyle, the smart guy, Garrett, the talky one, and Mike, the bastard.
Yes. So I guess the moral of the story is I agree with you guys. Mike is a bastard. So there is that. Moving forward, I can't get through this introduction of the game without getting horrifically derailed. It is a puzzle platformer game. It's also a first-person shooter, but you're not actually killing really anything other than knocking over some turrets, which apparently if they fall over, they're dead, which I find to be a very interesting design flaw. But we'll get into that here in a bit. The director was Joshua Weir. I don't know.
There's two E's and one I in between them both. But this is the guy who brought us Hexen 2, eventually went on to make Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, and then got picked up by Valve and did Blue Shift, Counter-Strike Source, Half-Life 2, Episode 1, Portal, the original, Episode 2, and now Portal 2.
Nice. Very, very nice.
I remember thinking Hexen 2 was pretty cool for the day. That was like Quake 1 type, or maybe even Quake 2 type days. But it was pretty cool. That's a good thing to cut your teeth on. Yeah. It obviously shows.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Blue Shift. All the Half-Life add-ons, I think, were done by Gearbox, right? Wasn't Blue Shift and Opposing Force done by Gearbox?
I believe you are correct.
I'm just going to say yes because I don't know.
I'm seeing if I can look it up real quick without getting too tight.
Maybe I should say no because I'm the bastard.
Yes, it was Gearbox. Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. And it was published by Sierra. Oh, man, I miss them.
Yeah, me
That
too.
was a good old day, man. I remember poring over the Half-Life manual, just like, oh, this game is so cool. Anywho, it was also written by Eric Wolpaw of National Lampoon and Jay Pinkerton of Left 4 Dead. So there's a good mix.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. You got a big comedy guy in there. There's a lot of funny stuff in this game. And Left 4 Dead, as well as all the Valve games, have so much world to them. And it's really amazing. I mean, if you play even the first few seconds of Half-Life 2, when you pull into the train station, already it's not being bombarded at you. You don't have to like read a manual, but just hearing people say things like, something's in the water, I've forgotten, everything. These sort of things, they work well. There could literally be nothing happening in Portal 2, but instead they add all these characters, all these events going on at the same time. Even the walls trying to reconstruct themselves have personality.
Yeah, everything does, and it's funny you bring up Left 4 Dead because you want to talk about a game that at its core has no story at all, but through the characters' just random banter builds so much story around it. Like you're like, oh, these guys have been through some stuff, but we never really see that stuff other than what we are personally taking part in.
Well, and big events like, activating the bridge in that game, depending on what character does it, you get to hear their story. It really is the epitome of show, don't tell.
I would argue it's the opposite, because they're telling their story instead of showing it.
Well, the idea, show, don't tell, right? Directing, movies.
Yeah. Yes, I'm very aware of what you're talking about, and that's why I'm saying I think Left 4 Dead is the opposite, because we're inferring on backstory from banter as opposed to scenes being displayed in front of us.
Right. But in the saying, the tell means that you're just, telling someone what's going on rather than show. You see the mountain, you go, oh, wow, what a mountain? And then you...
Yes, I'm aware. Okay. It's the whole reason I hate No Country for Old Men, because it's just a whole movie of just, this happened and it was really cool, but we didn't show you. Yeah. Also, the bad guy just looks like a doofus. Anyways, moving on. So, this game had some history with it. Obviously, there was a Portal 1, which we may go back and do an episode about. We're not sure. We wanted to go with something a little newer, but not super new. And I loved Portal 1. Loved it to death. And I remember, I'm assuming we all got Orange Box, and we were probably all got it for episode 2. And then, by the way, I looked it up. Yes, episode 2 did come out with Orange Box. And we were all kind of just like, Portal, what the hell is this? It's probably just some kind of random pack-in. Which was much like how I felt about the original Team Fortress when I got my first copy of Half-Life. I'm like, oh, this won't be anything. I ended up loving it to death.
Yeah.
And then this, I get Orange Box. I'm excited for literally everything in it except Portal because I knew nothing about it. And then I played it, and it was my favorite damn thing in the whole box.
Yeah, same thing with me. And honestly, I can't believe I forgot it. Like, I remember now, back then, talking to my roommate, Aaron, about it and saying, like, that's probably the most enjoyable 4 hours of gaming I've ever had.
Oh, yeah.
And Lord knows how I forgot that. Shame on me.
Because it was knocked out of your head by Aaron talking about how something Nintendo did was the best 4 hours of gaming ever.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. Or drinking. We did a lot of drinking. That might have been it, too.
A lot of drinking and a lot of yelling at each other because he's a Nintendo fanboy, and I'm a fan of Nintendo. I just not in love with them anymore. So there's a little window into our backstory with Portal, but this is also kind of a offshoot of a senior project game called Narbacular Drop. And this was developed back in 2005. And it pretty much was the birth of this Portal mechanic. And eventually the developers went on to work on the original Portal.
Yeah, you played as Princess No Knees, so she couldn't jump, kind of like the original Bomberman, and this portal spell you had in this mystical fantasy world was what allowed you to get up cliffs, propel yourself with some physics to jumping, but otherwise was an unspectacular looking game, but the mechanics were awesome. Valve picked and bought up the entire team.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So it seems to be the way to get hired by Valve. Just make something incredibly awesome and mind-blowing, and they'll give you a job. So really easy to get in there, guys.
I'll get right on that.
Yeah. Just make a game that shatters the minds of everyone who plays it. And no, chat room, this is part 1 of Portal. I screwed up the numbering on the overlay. It says part 2. This is part 1. My bad. Alas. Just have to figure it out. Bad Photoshop, Garrett. Bad Photoshop. So, there's a lot of talk within the fandom of Portal about this existing in the same world as Half-Life. Kyle, where do you fall on that?
Well, in Portal 1, you can find in the lab a projection screen that says Black Mesa Facilities on it, as well as some paperwork kind of laying about that's like purchases made by Black Mesa. So it's definitely the same world, and they've said as much. In the new, what's the redone version of Half-Life 1 that came out?
Black Mesa Source.
Yes. So that guy takes a couple of liberties and includes some Portal textures into the game.
Yeah, the ninjas have the long fall boots.
Yeah, and
that's fan made. So
exactly.
Yeah, granted, it's a nice touch. Also, and in is it episode 1 or episode 2? You see a cargo carrier that has like the Aperture Science logo on the containers.
Yep, so we know these are 2 different facilities. That makes sense, and a mega corporation that has world domination and portal destruction opening in mind.
Well, even the Still Alive song, GLaDOS says, maybe Black Mesa. Haha, fat chance. That's a joke,
Yeah, well, when Portal 1 came out, I just kind of assumed that was a joke because it was made by the same company. But as we've gone on, it really does seem like they're like, yeah, this is the same world.
Yeah, much as it matters, because you don't really deal with it that much.
No, not yet. I'm foreseeing a portal gun in Half-Life 3's future.
Well, sure. We're using the gravity gun mechanic to carry things, and that's what the portal gun is clearly based off of in look.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't shoot things around like the gravity gun, but that is how you pick stuff up. So
yeah, suspends it.
Yeah, but it's a fun damn game. Let's talk about the characters, though. We play as a female heroine known as Chell, who is unvoiced. No voice actor is the silent protagonist. She's the female equivalent to Gordon Freeman. They could go out on a date and make beautiful mute babies together.
They don't even grunt. Did Gordon Freeman ever grunt when he got shot? I don't think so.
I think he was dead silent as well.
Yeah,
Man,
completely.
he takes bullets like a champ. I would say it's because of the hazard suit, but that thing doesn't have a helmet. I don't know what those glasses of his are made out of.
Uh, Jason Statham.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the Science Center itself has a voice, correct?
Yep, played by Joe Rosersad?
Romersa.
Romersa.
If the Earth is currently governed by a manner of animal king, sentient cloud, or other governing body that either refuses to or is incapable of listening to reason.
Brilliant. They make that sound just exactly like a theme park, and it's great. I loved it.
Yes, it's very good.
This guy's a big anime guy.
Oh, is he? I haven't looked at his IMDb. I'm pulling it up right now. Okay,
Vampire.
Oh, he was in Acura. Or Akira, not the car.
I was
Sorry.
going to say, okay, why do they have that, what he drives, on IMDb?
Ghost in the Shell. Pretty much every anime I actually like, he seems to have been in. Oh, man, Big O, Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, holy crap. If it's an anime and it had an English dub, he's in it.
What was he in Cowboy Bebop?
Looking it up. Abdul Hakim.
Abdul Hakim. Was that the movie?
It says TV series.
Stray Dog Strut is the episode. That helps.
Not really. I'm just trying to think of any Abduls, but I can't think of any. Whatever, getting sidetracked.
Google searching it. I'm not getting anyone that looks like an anime character. Anyways, moving on. We've got the very, very famous from the first game, GLaDOS, our evil robot mastermind who's trying to test us to death, played by Ellen McLean.
Is it GLaDOS or is it GLaDOS?
Here come the test results. You are a horrible person. That's what it says. A horrible person.
Hello, and again.
Oh, there you go, Kyle. Way to go.
Pardon me.
Everybody's talking over that sound clip.
Yeah. Man, GLaDOS just berates you this entire game. Just like, hey, you're fat. You really do look fat. This jumper would work for anyone else, but you're too fat.
I wonder what the impact of all that would be on someone who had less self-confidence playing this game, if they were already horribly depressed and the game just berating you the whole time.
That's a good question. So if you're horribly depressed, please write the show at no, never mind.
I wonder, yeah, but that's like saying if you're guilty of a crime, every time you sit down and play a video game, the bad guys go, get him, you're like, oh, jeez.
So if Portal 1 came out in 2007, where do you guys stand on GLaDOS? She's definitely, I'm not sure if she's my favorite. She might be my favorite video game villain of the last decade.
Certainly my favorite robot voice.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, ever, yeah. That's a given.
If we're keeping it to video game villains, I'd say she's probably far and away the lead.
Okay. I'm trying to think of all time who my favorite villains are. I still really dig Arthas, but GLaDOS, man, there's just it's something we've never really seen before. So,
well, she's got a really interesting story here. I mean, she's an opera singer that has fallen in with Valve and basically been a part of every single project they've done. She was the voice of the witch, so she can bust out a good scream for Left 4 Dead 2.
oh wow, man, I wonder if she has fun with that around Halloween time.
Oh, dude, go to this woman's website. It is covered in Valve stuff. Portal, she's proud of her announcer for Team Fortress 2.
Yeah.
Man, if she has like a niece or nephew or like kids, they must just think she is the coolest person ever. Unless they're total jocks, in which they probably don't care. But if they're like even minute nerds, she must be like a goddess to them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And recently, that exact same voice got her the role in Pacific Rim.
It was just the trailer.
Aw.
Only the trailer. It's not that was a big thing when that trailer came out, and they had the voice of GLaDOS, even with the exact same modulator talking over the trailer. And it was just because Guillermo del Toro is a big fan, and he just wanted to give a little homage, but he didn't want to rip it off for the whole film.
Rip it off, please.
Okay, well, whatever. Maybe we'll get lucky and they'll throw it in. I don't care. I'll see Pacific Rim all day and night. That movie looks amazing. I can't wait for that.
I'm casually sitting on piles of money. Let's get some unique voiceovers for our trailer.
Yeah. Anyways, and then finally, just when I thought, like, coming in from Portal 1, I'm coming in, I'm just like, there's no way, absolutely no way in hell they can top GLaDOS. They're not going to come up with a character that I'm going to love even remotely close as much. And, well, they did it because apparently they signed a deal with the devil to make awesome robot characters, and they made Wheatley, the little spherical orb, blue-eyed Britishman, played by Stephen Merchant.
Oh, brilliant! You did find a portal gun! Do you know what? It just goes to show, people with brain damage are the real heroes in the end, aren't they, at the end of the day? Brave. Oh, brilliant! You did find a portal gun!
You just don't know how to stop that damn thing, do you, Kyle?
I'm sorry, I love that quote. No, actually, I do. That's a great quote. This guy is from The Office.
Is he? British Office or American Office?
Yes, the British Office, I believe.
Okay. All right.
You know, there's something about British people that can, like, you can listen to them blather on for hours and just be highly entertained. Like, if this was someone from the States, I think you'd probably just want to shoot yourself and stop playing the game.
I wonder if British people feel that way.
I don't know.
I do wonder that too. Does this just sound like someone bitching all the time to be like, excuse me, oh no. Like when I'm doing, I'm like, oh crap, that sounds awful. I don't want to play this game anymore.
Well, British people kind of just blathering on for hours on end is pretty much what Doctor Who is, and that's pretty popular over there, so I'm assuming this went over well. That is Garrett's window into England. I don't know.
That's some pretty solid logic, though. I can't really argue with that.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So, anyways, now that we've, that's pretty much the cast of characters. You got the turrets and whatnot, but they're not. I mean, they're not a character. They're just
But I love them.
a recurring theme. Yes, I do love me some turrets. Anyways, let's get into the story here. So we start the game. We wake up in what looks like a hotel room and are told to appreciate art.
You should now feel mentally reinvigorated. If you suspect staring at art has not provided the required intellectual sustenance, reflect briefly on this classical music.
Best wake up tutorial ever. I want this in Halo 5, man. Instead of like the look at the lights or whatever, I want it's like, Chief, go look at the Mona Lisa. All right, look at her eyes, look at her breasts, look at her right shoulder, look at her left. All right, we're good. Would you like to invert? So wonderful. And then very, very briefly, so what is it? We wake up, it says like 5 months later or whatever, and then we go back to sleep, and then we wake up, God knows how far in the future. I mean, the whole hotel room looks like it's a crypt at this point.
Yeah, and you've got a huge impression in the bed where your body used to be, and it goes 999 days since last activation.
I still don't understand, and you're the same person from Portal 1. I don't understand how you got in the hotel room. Maybe you're walking down the road after you got out of everything exploding the first time. There's a hotel, you just decide to stay in it. Turns out it was the lab. It just pulls you back down.
Let's talk about this then, because there's really no setup to connect the two games, other than the fact that when we get to the part with GLaDOS, she recognizes you, and that there's paintings of you in this one really creepy and awesome set piece in the game.
Yeah.
So you're definitely Chell from the first game. But how did you guys feel about that kind of open? Like, it's a cold open. Like, we're just kind of left to our own devices to kind of make our own story of how Chell was recaptured by Aperture. And I personally dig it. So, Mike, you look like you're about to explode with opinion.
No, I'm just mentally expounding upon my theory that I just cobbled together in 5 seconds. I'm having my own little mental journey here. Be back in 5.
Okay, all right. And Kyle, what about you? How'd you feel about the opening?
Because it's a puzzle platformer, I don't feel like I bring anything more to the character. I'm not sitting there being like, ooh, what's my backstory? I'm going to make it up. I'm going to like design my face and really get into it. But because it's a puzzle game, you're just accepting everything at face value because you need information to solve what's going on. So this wasn't horribly out of place. When the walls start falling apart, though, and you realize that you're in one of these box cars and surrounding you are just thousands of box cars, all organized and taken care of by this crazy man ball.
Yeah,
A
so
little like Monsters Inc. when they go down with all the doors and stuff, except they're hotel rooms this time.
full of what is kind of alluded to by Wheatley as dead people, or as he refers to them as vegetables. Yeah, so you meet Wheatley. He comes in the front door. Oh, hello! You know, like a less obnoxious C-3PO and more endearing, in my opinion. That's a good point you bring up, Kyle. So I love Portal and Half-Life and Valve games in general really nail this feeling of you just feel like the world is vast and they show you so little.
True.
Like,
Well, and it's in motion too. So he didn't sit you down and tell you everything that was going on. Instead, he's complaining. How was I supposed to know the power was going out? I have to take care of all this. What are they doing to me? And that's so much more effective. Like the guy sitting there saying, he drank the water in Half-Life 2.
Well, it's such a good like Twilight Zone type thing. You think you're in a hotel room, all of a sudden everything falls away, and you're in this crazy thing. Just like the Twilight Zone, there's an eyeball on the other side of the door.
that's a very good point.
And it's just messing with your, any kind of secure notions you might have had with the game starting.
Yeah. One of the most brilliant openings to a game ever. I still, when the walls come crashing down and you get to look at the cargo space of test subjects, it's so awesome.
Yeah.
So anyways, very quickly after this, we move on to finding the portal gun. And starts off just like Portal 1, where we can only shoot blue portals. Kind of easing you back in.
Yeah.
Did you guys get a little bit of a nerdgasm when you fell into your original holding cell from the first game?
Well, I assumed because of all the little box cards, that this wasn't my cell. But then again, didn't have the little radio, which wasn't playing, which was sad because that music was infuriating, yet you had to love it.
Yeah, well, apparently it has been 999 years, so. God, the look of the entire Aperture Science facility is so awesome in the beginning of this game. I was almost sad when it started to get cleaned up.
Yeah.
I love this overgrown, broken look.
Well, and the fact that they programmed the entire facility for basically the following.
Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Enrichment Center. We are currently experiencing technical difficulties due to circumstances of potentially apocalyptic significance beyond our control. However, thanks to emergency testing protocols, testing can continue.
And we don't even know what happened, at least not yet.
Nope.
But everything has gone wrong, and yet they took the time to make sure that these people that they keep locked up in cryostasis or whatever it may be can continue to complete these tests.
Because the tests are what's important, not humanity.
Well, it's kind of inferred that the people who ran Aperture are gone, have abandoned the place, or are all dead, and it's now left to the devices of an insane AI, GLaDOS. So that's I mean, maybe I'm wrong. That's what I have taken away as the Portal lore. Like, the only reason that it seems like torturous testing is because now it's just an AI that's been sitting with their own thoughts for too long, and they're just like, well, what was I programmed to do? Test things. All right, let's just keep testing. I don't care if people die.
Yeah. Later in the game, they kind of show that the founder was a little bananas.
Yes, but we're not covering that in this first half. So.
But we're not. But I just wanted to be a bastard.
No, it's okay. You actually had a leg to stand on that as opposed to the end of Heart of the Swarm. We were just straight up wrong. Anyways. What was I going to say? Sorry. Kyle, thoughts?
Oh, I already said them.
Oh. Okay, then. Well, be that way. So, the large majority of the beginning of this game is you and Wheatley on an adventure together, trying to escape Aperture, if it will. Wheatley never really explains his full motivations for wanting to escape. But, you go through different test rooms and whatnot, and it eventually leads you to the room where you kill GLaDOS in the first game, and it is now of all kinds of overgrown craziness, and you see GLaDOS just laying there dead. And, oh man, talk about nerd chills.
Yep,
and the fact that GLaDOS only refers to GLaDOS, or that Wheatley only refers to GLaDOS as her.
Yeah, it's haunting.
Well, like, Wheatley's design, the kind of ball with an eye, or an eyeball, you might say, Isn't that kind of what GLaDOS's subroutines look like in the first one? The one that you picked off like grapes and threw down the Inferno chute? Like, they all kind of looked a bit like Wheatley.
That's a good point.
Yes, and actually towards the end of this chapter that we're covering today, you realize that he is, one of these balls, just like she had the one that was, what was it, her anger processor or something. But either way, I mean, when you were ripping her apart in one, she slowly starts to go even more insane. So not only is she insane, extremely mad at you, but now she's lost all those things that were holding her back.
Yeah, she's kind of a raw form of her. So,
but Wheatley also talks about like others or they. He always says they too with her, and they put me in charge of these people.
Right. I mean, it could be more than just GLaDOS. It could have been the humans that at one point ran Aperture.
Yeah. Well, the whole darn place seems to be alive in some degree or another.
Right.
So maybe there's just like a little hierarchy of that wall panel has, a job that's better than that wall panel. So he gets to tell that wall panel what to do.
Yeah. And the AIs all seem to have very quirky personalities, which is something robots with personalities usually bothers me in sci-fi, but they do it so damn well in Portal that I really enjoy it.
It's very like Hitchhiker's Guide with the happy doors and stuff like that. Like, it's right up that alley.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's an incredibly good example. I'm a big Hitchhiker's Guide fan. So anyways, one thing leads to the other. Wheatley leads us to a what looks like a fuse box room with an insane amount of switches and says, find the escape pod. And then he proceeds to flip every freaking switch, reactivating GLaDOS.
I discovered I have a sort of black box quick save feature. In the event of a catastrophic failure, the last 2 minutes of my life are preserved for analysis. I was able, well, forced really, to relive you killing me again and again, forever.
You left out the best part, Kyle, where she's like, a vindictive person would probably spend the rest of their life plotting on how to exact revenge.
Well, if she wasn't already insane, she certainly maxed it out now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her entire demeanor of this passive-aggressive, evil genius is just so wonderful. I'm gonna try and end the love letter to GLaDOS here, but it's just so damn well done. And in this game, it's even better because you've killed her, and so you are now spending your entire game talking to someone that you murdered and has now come back to life.
And isn't terribly happy with you about it.
No, and they remember it. And as a matter of fact, as she said, she has relived her murder at your hands thousands of times. So you basically sent GLaDOS to hell. She has returned from hell, and there, right in front of her is the person that sent her there. So
now, one of the things during that whole scene of when you're kind of riding that elevator up and it's flipping all the switches, it just kind of demonstrated to me one of the things that Valve does better than almost any other company, which is having basically cinemas, but they're not forcing you to look any one way. It's like this very free-form thing, but they do them in such a way that you're always wanting to be looking where they want you to be looking. Like they're kind of guiding your eyes. So like, you're going up this elevator, you could be looking in a million different directions and not see that it's flipping every switch as you go. But they're really good at just leading your interest more than just forcing your eye to be like, oh my God, she's hitting all the switches. She's hitting all the switches. Why is she hitting all the switches? Like that kind of stuff. When you're dealing with Wheatley in a lot of areas, he pops up kind of where they know your eye is going to be. There's just so many areas, even in like the Half-Life 2, where they do this so well. You could look anywhere you want, but you want to be looking where they want you to be looking, and it's just brilliant.
It's very well done. There are a few instances where they take control of the camera. The only time I really noticed it here was when GLaDOS awakens. You don't have free range of the camera when she picks you up.
Right, but even then, that's like purposeful because they want you to feel trapped.
Right, exactly. It works very well. When she's actually waking up, you can, I'm gonna look behind me like an idiot. No, you're gonna watch GLaDOS resurrect.
Exactly.
And it's a very good point. From just a artistic standpoint, it's so brilliantly well done.
Well, and they hide a lot of stuff, so you want to be looking around. Like, even when you're walking up to the elevators throughout the beginning of this game, there are companion cubes and turrets and all sorts of stuff flying through them.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. They're the kings and queens of Easter eggs. And there's even like little, in the very beginning, there's little offshoot rooms you can go into that have no purpose. But I was really excited because in the first Portal, like a lot of the rooms you look up and you see like little observation rooms. And like I said at the beginning, this is the thing that Valve does so well, is it makes you want to know more. Like, oh shit, I want to go up to that room. What's in that room? And so in Portal 2, when there's a door broken down and I can go up into one of these rooms, there's really nothing there. I still was just like, yeah, some dude at some point was sitting here with a cup of coffee, cabin in the woods style, watching people fall into acid.
Yep. That's just, they're so great about, leading your eye and then just knowing where your eye is going to be. Like, even as simple as when you first start up and you open the door and there's Wheatley. I mean, if you were an idiot, sure, you could walk to the door sideways, and the door would open, there's Wheatley. He would say his words, and you'd be like, who said that? Where'd you go? What? What's going on? But they just know that you're going to want to look at the door, obviously, because the door's going to open.
There's someone knocking and talking at you. So, yeah, it's a very good point. Anywho.
Now, let me put a little PS at the bottom of this love letter, though. There are a lot... This game is plagued by load screens. And it's a bit of a rhythm killer.
Big time. In between
especially at the first.
Every testing room. You finish a puzzle, load screen. And this is something in my first playthrough I did not notice. But now that I'm playing through the second time for the show, I'm with you 100%, Kyle. I'm like, come on, haven't we gone past this?
Well, we have tools now. I mean, do you think that real stupid walkthrough of the scanner in Mass Effect 3 wasn't a load screen? Of course it was. It was a dumb little tool. And Kratos having to, like, he's the buffest man in the universe, and he has to stop and, like, lift a door. And no matter how damn fast you press that button, it still takes 20 seconds. That's because it's a hidden load screen.
Yeah.
There's no reason some steam couldn't have through the walls, or we could have just kept riding the elevator.
Yeah, the elevator could have just faded to black or just had a repeating texture that was somewhat staggered so you didn't realize it.
I don't know if that's just a limitation of the engine, though. This is a really old engine.
That's a very good point. This is a very, very good point, because I remember the original Half-Life 2 just having abysmal load times. Like, made you want to tear your eyes out.
Yeah.
Of course, that was like the first game that required like Steam and that always-on connection thing. But whatever the case, yeah, it's a very good point. This is an incredibly old engine, and I can't believe how well it is.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, you play this game, you would have no idea that this engine was made in 2005 or whenever the hell.
Well, it was released in 2005. They were working on that for at least 4 years before then. They took a long time. They even they delayed it by a year because some dude stole the code.
Yep, it's crazy stuff. So, anyways, once GLaDOS is resurrected, she starts kind of repairing Aperture, and as you progress test room by test room, it starts to look cleaner and cleaner, and eventually it looks like you never left. It looks like it did in Portal 1. Clean, super sciencey. I love the moving panels. The whole usage of the moving panels is just so awesome.
Yeah. And it just thinks like, in the first one, all it is just flat walls with a texture on it. And here you're seeing that, holy crap, there is so much stuff behind them. Like physically behind them this time. They're programming all these panels and stuff to move and do this crazy stuff. In that respect, it kind of diminished my hatred for the loading screens, because it was like, okay, they're putting a heck of a lot more stuff into these levels.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And your hatred will diminish as the game goes on, because you are loading more complex puzzles. So those rooms you spend a lot of time in, and you don't mind it. But at this point where it's, get cube A and put it on button A, it seems a little bit much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Now, I have to say, as we get into this, we're moving through Glass's newfound powers and different test rooms. Wheatley pops up, throws open a door. Actually, at one point, he comes in and says, only 4 more levels to go. And you're like, oh, okay, awesome. So you stick with it. Glass starts getting a little quiet, and you run out a door and start heading up to the Turret Productions and Neurotoxin facilities.
Yeah, by the way, during that initial escape scene where you're following Wheatley, and GLaDOS opens up the test rooms, be like, Here, I'll show you the deer I was talking about. This time I totally fell for it, and I don't know what the hell I was thinking. He slams the door behind you and fills the room with neurotoxin. I was just like, wait, I know I didn't do this on my first playthrough. What the hell? I guess I was seduced by the plants on the other side of the door.
Well, did anybody bother to do that final test she came up with? I just kind of saw that and was like, nope. And
that's the room.
juked
That's
right.
about that where you die.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, because it's an open door at the end where you see shrubbery, and she talks about the deer. And so that's what I was like, huh. And I jumped and I went through the door. She slams the door, a wall closes up behind you, and the whole room fills up with gas and you die.
That's brilliant. It kind of makes me wish I'd taken the time to do that.
Yeah, like I said. But I did it thinking, I think this was the way the game led me before. No. But yeah, very quickly after that, we find the production line of turrets. And we're kind of planning our escape, as it were. So Wheatley's like, hey, let's sabotage the turret production and let's destroy the feed of neurotoxins so she can't poison us to death, or you to death. He's a robot. I don't think it would really affect him much. I guess the turrets could shoot him.
Yeah, and you meet one of my new favorite characters in this game, which is the defective turret, which
awesome.
Not only doesn't have the same high, creepy voice, but it's like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, tries to fire its bullets, but it can't. But
I did my best.
It's so gung-ho about his job.
Yeah, it's great. It's like the Charlie Day of turrets. It's so wonderful. So yeah, so you replace basically you find the little assembly line where it's scanning a template and then rejecting the bad turrets. So you just go grab a bad turret, replace it with the template, and all of a sudden it thinks all of the reject turrets are the ones that should be shooting ahead. And let me move on to the neurotoxin room, which is cool. I love anytime we get to destroy things with lasers. It makes me happy.
This took me such a long time when I was playing through this originally.
Oh, to figure it out?
Yeah, the game has this way of making you feel like you really discovered something, because those moving panels that you had to attach a laser to while you're listening to Wheatley talk about hacking, which in the past has just been him breaking windows, opening single panels and all. So I'm sitting there forever waiting for him to do it, and I'm like, is that even right? Am I even doing the right thing by taking this laser and cutting those tubes?
Yeah, well, it's also the panels that you have to shoot the portal to use the laser are so far away that even on my second playthrough, I was like, I don't remember what to do with this laser. And I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, it's those panels that are way off in the distance. They do a good job of rewarding you for that carrot on a stick.
Now, in between here, when you take out the tubes of neurotoxin, you head into the dark, and it's my favorite Wheatley quote so far.
They say that the old caretaker of this place went absolutely crazy. Chopped up his entire staff of robots. All of them robots. They say at night you can still hear the screams of their replicas. All of them functionally indistinguishable from the originals. No memory of the incident. Nobody knows what they're screaming about. Absolutely terrifying. Though obviously not paranormal in any meaningful way.
This felt like a British Futurama happening right there.
That's a very good point. That's a wonderful way to put that. Yeah, man, just so wonderful. Wheatley for president, man.
Honestly, with those two things, the turret production and the neurotoxin, I figured them out almost instantly. Not to brag, but just because I wanted to save the turrets. I saw them fly by, and I'm like, ooh, grab. I want to save you forever. And I had a whole little army of them that I had saved, and then they just started blowing up around me. I'm like, I guess I better do something else.
That's awesome. That's so great. Any game where you just want to play around and try and break it bodes well for the game.
Oh, sure. I mean, we didn't even take the time, because we played through Portal so long ago, to talk about how when we first all got the game, we definitely put Portal on our left, Portal on our right, looked at ourselves, ran through them a few hundred times, ran the other way, tried to see our faces if we got it in a nice little corner.
It never ends!
It's like when you're a kid and you're playing in the mirrors at the department store.
Yep,
Or just
exactly.
put one on the ceiling, one on the floor, and just fall forever.
Yeah, that's the other fun way to screw with it. It's great. The still to this day, one of my favorite things in a video game ever is the inertia puzzles, where you put a portal really up high and then you jump to your death and shoot a portal at the last minute and it carries you all the way across a gap. I love it.
Well, you must have had something like that in the original little tech thing that those guys did, because no matter how ugly the game is, if you had that, sold.
Yeah.
That must have been what hooked them.
Yep.
Well, and you have new mechanics for the puzzles as well, as the nullification barrier, where it gets rid of all your portals as you walk through it, and that comes into play a whole lot awful later. And then the laser redirection boxes.
Yeah, the prisms, those are great.
Now, I've only played the campaign up until very recently, but I did play on the Xbox co-op when it first came out with Aaron.
Our roommate from college.
Our roommate who has got serious anger issues, and it was just me and him, and we got nowhere because it was just everybody running up, picking up the block, shooting lasers at each other like, dance for me, and then he'd come up and slap the block out of my hand, and I'd come back, grab it back up, throw it in the acid like, nobody gets it now, and we were just for about an hour and a half just goofing around, getting nothing done, and like our other friends that were there were just boogers flying out of their nose. They were laughing so hard at how stupid we were.
We might have to do a bonus video show of us just griefing each other in the multiplayer. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It could be very fun. Anyway, we're moving rapidly towards the end of what we're going to talk about for part one of this, which is, of course, when we finally get to GLaDOS and she is more or less disarmed because the turrets are not functioning as intended and the neurotoxin has run dry. So we end up getting ourselves kind of boxed in by GLaDOS, and she's all like, ha-ha, and drops a turret, doesn't work, brings in the neurogas tube, nothing comes out. And then Wheatley shows... What was that?
So a Wheatley comes out.
A Wheatley comes out, yeah, exactly. Sorry, he pulls out of the tubes. And something incredibly awesome, and I did not expect to happen, happens. You replace the core. You basically... GLaDOS gets ripped out, and in her place, you replace her with Wheatley as the new head of Aperture, pretty much. And, oh man, how wonderful is it when you make that switch, guys, and he just starts playing with the walls.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So
just once again, I can't believe I'm watching half this stuff in this incredibly ancient engine.
Yeah, exactly. And we got a clip from that. We'll play that right now.
Zero. All you've done is boss me around. Well, now who's the boss? Who's the boss? It's me. Ah! See that? That is a potato battery. It's a toy for children. And now she lives in it. Sorry, what?
The engineers tried everything to make me behave, to slow me down. Once, they even attached an intelligence dampening sphere on me. It clung to my brain like a tumor, generating an endless stream of terrible ideas.
No, not listening, not listening.
It was your voice.
No, you're lying,
yes,
you're lying.
You're the tumor. You're not just a regular moron. You're designed to be a moron.
I am not a moron!
Yes, you are. You're the moron they built to make me an idiot.
Well, how about now? Now who's a moron? Could a moron hunt you into this pit? Ah! Could a moron do that? Uh-oh.
The answer to that question, Wheatley, is yes. A moron could absolutely punch somebody into a pit.
Yeah, so we learned that this guy we've been helping out is essentially a designed idiot to inhibit GLaDOS's intelligence.
Yeah.
A tumor.
Brilliant turnaround.
And we have made the most horrible wrong by putting him in control.
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Cue Rolling Stones? Who am I thinking of?
No. It's the Who, man. The Who.
I said Rolling Stones or Who. I get them confused all the time.
That was the question. You weren't saying the Who.
No, I seriously, never mind. Anyways. So yeah, we got to turn around. Wheatley is now evil. GLaDOS is now a potato. Didn't see that coming.
I mean, that's your entire world, this facility, and you're suddenly put in charge of it, and you can feel every single panel on the walls. I mean, literally every tile on the bathroom floor is under your control. I can see why you might have a bit of a power complex the second you're plugged into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you add the fact that he's incredibly stupid. Bad combination, I guess.
It's like giving a 5-year-old access to the tool shed. Nothing good will come of it.
And the semi-automatic weapons.
Yes, a tool shed also where you happen to keep your guns.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nothing good would come of that. So, anyways, that's where we end this discussion this week. Next week we will pick up with the post-potato, post-Wheatley reckoning. And I'm very excited to talk about everything that we uncover in the second half of Portal 2. We did get some community feedback. If you'd like to join in on the conversation, weigh in. This is a book club style show. We're going to be telling you exactly how far into games we'll be playing so that you can weigh in on the conversation. You can do so at campaignroundtable@gmail.com. Shoot us an email, shoot us an MP3 attachment. We'd love call-ins. We'll definitely play those. Anyway, this week's Discorax posted on our forums over at thestarcast.com/forum. You can also talk about the Campaign Roundtable over there. We have a sub-forum. He said, how is it possible that such amazing voice acting can hold up so well? And I would say listen to the first 45 minutes of this show where we're just gushing love of the voice actors.
It's a better question would be, how is it possible that there are some video game makers who don't understand how important voice acting is to making something brilliant?
Music at this point.
You can even have really bad lip syncing, which in this game there is no lip syncing because they're robots without mouths, but I just beat Tomb Raider. Lip syncing is pretty terrible, but the voice acting is spot on. And I think voice acting greater than lip syncing.
You can even have a really bad story, like Crysis 3, but have brilliant voice acting, and it kind of works.
I wouldn't know. Those games just bore me. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Kyle, you're the resident voice acting geek. What do you have any other points to weigh in on this?
It's so important for actors to have an imagination, and voice acting is really where that comes out. I mean, how many times have you seen a bad action movie with lots of computer graphics, and that actor just turns and, gives their look of horror, but they don't see a thing in front of them. It is just vacant. They don't see the dinosaur. They can't even imagine it. So voice acting it's just this whole other level. I love it so much more than normal acting because they're into it and there's subtleties to it. I mean, you can't just be the Hulk by screaming. It's got to have this, this back and forth and the emotion of it. Otherwise, it's just stupid.
Nobody
Which
likes
most
stupid
Hulk cartoons have been.
Yeah.
Which is a very good point.
Well, just look at the shifting cartoons between the 80s, 90s, and now today. As, a single afternoon cartoon can be marketed towards adults.
True.
Yeah.
Although it is worth noticing that a lot of the voice actors from the 80s are still working nowadays. They're just doing it so much better.
Yeah. Well, or you're the voice of Optimus Prime and you were always godlike.
Yeah, you don't even have to try in that case, but
talk in an awesome voice. That was more Morgan Freeman. But anyway.
Yeah.
Discrex also asked what we thought about the story tie-in with Portal 1. Do we think it was solid, flimsy, awesome? And I think we talked about that at a decent length already, but it was just, since he asked, I just wanted to address it here and see if you guys had any other points to talk about going from Portal 1 to Portal 2.
It is a little flimsy, but I'm going to give it a pass because everything else is so great, and you'll forget about any kind of tie-ins within 15 minutes. They just make you completely forget about it, really.
Yeah.
Well, and so many games immediately throw the threat of being killed or killing as the main progression goal. So the fact that a platformer puzzle game in first person actually has a story, we're immediately going to be more impressed than we would be otherwise.
That's a good point.
In fact, there's a couple instances here where you can fall into acid or get burned and die or, end up getting shot to death. But there are entire rooms where there is no threat of death, yet you still feel compelled to go on.
Yeah.
Well, like, I don't know if you guys have ever read any, like, horror science fiction short stories, but there's the one, I Have No Mouth, But I Must Scream, about a dude who's trapped in basically a computer planet. The computer planet hates him with every fiber of its being and just does everything it can to make him miserable.
Ooh.
But it won't let him die. Very classic story. This is like this mixed with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's just British humor just flooding into that kind of horror syndrome. Like, and that's basically what GLaDOS says she's going to do, is like, I'm going to keep you down here until you die. And you know what? I'm thinking of ways to bring you back to life so we can do this forever. I'm going to torture you with tests till the end of time.
Yep. And
I would have to say that's the next thing, is testing. They really embrace this idea to a absolutely absurd level, that the test and testing, it's its own noun in this video game.
Mm-hmm. This is the prime directive. It's the test. What are we testing? What in God's name is Aperture Science trying to accomplish is probably the question that's screaming inside my brain every minute of playing this game. It's like, what does this accomplish? We know the portal gun works. Test over.
You're testing science. For science. With science.
She tried to kill me with science. That's the best I've got. It's the best joke I could pull out. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's funny. And this is my last, I think, my closing argument closing point for the week is that you bring up a good point, Mike. The scenario we find ourselves in is horrifying. If we were actually trapped in a facility, thousands of miles underground, it seems, yet somehow plants are growing, which is something I would like to get into at a later date. If you were trapped, you had literally not a single other human being to talk to. All there was a malicious machine that was just hell-bent on exhausting you to death. Like, I can't think of... There's few other things that manifest itself in my brain as a more perfect hell. Yet this game makes me so happy to play. When I get into this world, I hear GLaDOS's voice, I see a turret, I laugh, I smile, and it is something that I don't even know if Valve knew what they had when they made it.
Well, and even in the beginning, you're faced with brain damage. You cannot speak. And you try, and instead you jump. But
yep.
It's because it's not like losing a limb. That would be like, well, how intelligent am I now? Can I even function? I don't know. Is this as good as it gets in my head?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is basically the most fun hell will ever be, unless you go to Chuck E. Cheese.
Well, then you just get a disease from the ball pit, and it's over really quick.
God, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's basically it. This is hell, but hell's pretty darn fun. I hope hell's like this, really. Just British robots and snarky overlord Satan. Yeah.
Or at least, at the very least, hope the robots are hot. So, like it's Cortana or the robot in Mass Effect or something. Just so I got something to look at.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess it's hell, so I'll take what I can get.
Turrets designed by Apple. Why not?
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Anyways, that brings us to the end. We'll be wrapping up Portal next week with part 2 of our Portal 2 discussion. You want to help us for free? Help out the show? You can leave us a review in the iTunes store if you're a podcast listener. It's the best way to ensure our show reaches new listeners. Big thanks to Lindy2B, who left us a review and said thanks for the awesome nerd podcast. Thank you, Lindy, for leaving a review.
And you're welcome.
Yes. And the Campaign Roundtable, our show, is a production of amove.tv. You can go to amove.tv/Campaign Roundtable. That is our website. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or catch the VODs on youtube.com/StarcastShow. Show. We moved all the amove stuff over there because it had the most subs, and it was stupid to split subs across many YouTubes, and they don't let you change your damn / domain. So, alas, that is what it will be. Catch us live every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern on amove.tv/live. You can email us at campaignroundtable@gmail.com. Send in any questions, comments, or MP3 or video attachments to join in on the conversation. You can follow us on Twitter at CRT Show. You can follow me at Garrett Art. Kyle is at Kyle Ferguson. And Mr. Mike is at MSD Artist. You can go to nomoonart.com for my design work. I do all the graphics for all of our shows, and I do a lot of Smite, StarCraft, Dota, League of Legends overlay stuff for Twitch streams. So if you're looking to kind of pimp out your stream, make it look nice and professional, I can help you out. Again, that's nomoonart.com. Kyle, where can people find you?
You can find me at Biggest Fan Podcast, where we follow the fan that's driving you mad, and man, it is shaping up to be one heck of a summer. We got a new Thor, we got Iron Man coming out, we got Star Trek we're doing the original series there, which Brockett is most upset about. Motivating him to sit down and watch those has been a chore.
But it's because they're kind of awful if you didn't grow up on it.
Yeah, or you should at least watch them for the first time when you're sick or like somehow half incapacitated. They're pretty dumb.
Watch the new remastered Blu-ray ones with all the super cool special effects.
Yeah, it's kind of sad you can't see the strings like on the hover robots anymore, but it is nice to kind of have that continuity and actually have a planet look like a planet rather than a ball of trash.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's kind of like putting new lights at the Disney's Haunted Mansion, man. Like, the lights will look nice, but everything else around it still looks like crap. Mm-hmm. And the haircuts are still from the 60s, so there you go. Anyways, big thanks to our sponsors, doghousesystems.com. Our code is CRT. That will not get you a CRT monitor, but it will get you double memory on your next Doghouse Systems gaming rig. And they are fantastic rigs. I've been playing, obviously, Portal 2 on it, but I play all my games on my Doghouse. I stream on it. I do the podcast on it. It's a great all-in-one rig, and awesome customer service to boot. I can't talk today. So go check them out, doghousesystems.com. Again, the code is CRT, and we thank them for their support. And we will see you guys next week with part 2, despite what our overlay says, of Portal 2. See you then.
Take care.
Bye.